Please stand by.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Warning. What is your name?
I am Jay Ramone, and this is the Jay Ramone Podcast.
If the FCC knew you were doing drugs on the air, shut us down!
This gets more work done more accurately.
I will sit down with bands, artists, chefs, business owners, and fellow Oklahomans to talk about their projects and dealing with day-to-day life.
This stuff can give you brain damage.
This is the Jay Ramone Podcast.
Power of the internet is truly amazing.
This is the Jay Ramone Podcast, and I am sitting here with Mike, also known as R.R. Williams.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Thank you very much for stopping by on your way to Hardcore Ardmore, as I refer to it.
Man, it is so much. Every time that I go to Ardmore, it's so much further than I think it's going to be.
You think it's really close, and it's not.
It's like every time, for the most part, every time I've ever been out there, it's not like on a weekday. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's like just past, like to a Tulsa person who doesn't get out much. I'm like, it's just past Oklahoma City.
It's just right there.
Like, you know, I drive to Oklahoma City all the time. It's fine. And then it's just like another Oklahoma City drive after you get to Oklahoma City. So it's, not that I'm not excited to go out there and play. All those people are very lovely, but it is far as, can I say bad words?
You can.
It's far as shit from my house. And then the drive back is always worse than the drive there. So
I grew up there, and then I went to college in Claremore at Rogers State. So
that is a far drive.
I have made that drive so many times. You have no idea. One time, losing my clutch going over the Arbuckle Mountains, and I just, rode her home. You just feel the gears and make it work.
Man, weird Ardmore history. Relevant to probably 10 people in the whole state. But the guy that I'm playing with, Jonathan Ashley White, who's like a fantastic,
awesome dude,
makes cool songs. So about 15 years ago, he booked my old band or like a version of my old band, 30 Called Arson, which was John Moreland's, I don't know, 40th band from high school, but like, his sort of post-hardcore thing. And
I'm so old, I've seen 30 Called Arson with John.
That show, another band that my current drummer, the Dust Bowl Souls / Black Gold Band drummer Steve Walden, was in a band from Texas that had come up to play in Ardmore, and that's how we met that guy.
No kidding.
So the guy that plays the drums in my band now and that played on Everything the Hard Way and a bunch of stuff, we all met him via Jonathan Ashley White at a show in Ardmore 15 years ago or something. Just a weird. And
was that at the Tivoli, the old movie theater?
Yes.
Dude, that's so rad.
Yeah, it's a weird coincidence. Or not, I don't know what it is, or serendipitous.
I saw the Weird Al Yankovic movie UHF in theaters in that theater.
That's awesome. Man, like, I think it was like the 30th anniversary maybe of that movie. And he came and did like an in-person appearance at Circle Cinema, which is like the Tulsa indie theater. And there was like a meet and greet beforehand. And my kids were really little, but they had just sort of discovered, like, it's like they were 10, like 8 to 10.
At the age you're supposed to discover.
And so they have discovered, they became aware of Michael Jackson, which all children have unfortunate fascination with Michael Jackson when they're little. He has like magnetism towards kids.
He does.
And then in a related way, they've discovered Weird Al from that. And then we went and met Weird Al at Circle Cinema, and he took a picture, and my kids couldn't be like further. They're like shell shocked to meet him. So they couldn't be further away from him in the picture. It's like Weird Al, and then like the corners of my two sons' heads sort of just barely in frame because they're like scared to talk to celebrities.
I've seen him
on TV.
I've seen him 3 times now. And 2 of the times I was working the show,
and
selling merch for him.
I bet he's so good live. I've never gotten to see him.
It's unbelievable how great he is live, and his band are all top-notch musicians. One of those times I was just a fan at the show, and it was at the Zoo Amphitheater, and he had a symphony orchestra with him, and it was even more ridiculous.
Of course.
But selling merch for him, his fans are the absolute nicest people on the face of the planet.
That's amazing.
They're buying like 12 items of merch. They have exact change and have it ready for you and say please and thank you, and they're patient. It's unbelievable. It blew me away.
That is. So my only experience with selling pro tour circuit merch was for a summer. I got hired to sell merch for Stryper on tour.
Oh, yeah.
So I went on tour with Stryper, who are all lovely people. Like, some of the nicest people I've ever met are in Stryper. They're just, like, great guys. But their fans are the range is, like, extremely nice, like you're talking about, to, like, the meanest, shittiest Karen level people that I've ever met. And there's, like, a pretty... It's like, it's sort of either one or the other. And they also are the kind of people that will buy every stitch of merchandise that's back there and drop $400. And then you'll see them 3 days later in a totally different town, and it's the same person, and then they'll just buy it all again.
The same thing.
The same things. So, dude, there was like...
Is there anything...
I like that. And I am making a conscious effort to not talk about myself or my own stuff like at all. I just want to have like... aside conversations about whatever you're saying.
Every Stryper fan, do they wear anything that is not black and yellow?
Well, they all wear Stryper merch that they bought from previous shows, and that can vary in color depending on what vintage. Like, they do the thing which is smart, which is they'll make their old shirts anew. So you can get like a Stryper shirt that they sold in 1984 now. Like, they just reprint it. So they'll have that stuff, or they'll be dressed like, I don't know. There's like a lot of like, there's like a way that people that are like, not like the modern, like mega church style Christians, but there's like a middle ground between like Pentecostal people and those people where they dress like they're in the Napoleon Dynamite movie.
Yes. Like
tucked in polos and like ill-fitting khakis and that sort of thing. There's like a whole vibe of that there. And then the best part about that is like they didn't play Christian shows. It was like it'd be like Stryper and like Autograph are on a bill. And so like there's like the hardcore Stryper fans, and then there's people that are like hardcore like Jackal or whatever. Who else is on the bill? And those people are there to get fucked up. And then there's like people that think it's hilarious to go see 80s music, and that all those things kind of come together in a very funny, like there's the like very buttoned up Christians, and then there's like super wasted metal, hair metal fans, men and women that are, we got a sitter for all the kids, and we're going to go out and get trashed. And those people are coming together at merch table to have like extremely uncomfortable exchanges with each other. And it's very funny. And I value that opportunity that I got to do that in my life. So.
As a people watcher in crowds, especially, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall.
It was so good. I have I'll give you a really vague description anecdote, because like this is funny, but it's like the specifics are like kind of lost on me a little bit. But here's the general idea of what happened. So I was at a show. I was working at a Stryper show. It was after the show. And if you know anything about Stryper, they make small Bibles that are like Stryper edition New Testament Bibles. And in the middle of their set, they throw them out into the crowd. And you can't buy these Bibles or anything. These just have to like happen to you via, divine like, God decides you get one. That's the only way you get one. I can't sell you one. I won't go get you one from the bus. Like people have offered, I'll give you $100 to go to steal a Bible for me, which is a very funny thing.
I bet they have.
So the Bibles are like, it's like a coveted item amongst Striper fandom. And in a story that relates really well to the cross section of like very buttoned up people and very drunk people, there was a guy that clearly was there from the Christian side of things, and he was being very polite and buying merch. And he had a young teenage son with him, and they were buying he like has the Striper hat on that he bought earlier, and now he's buying more stuff. And then there's a very intoxicated woman who's like probably in her 50s, if I had to guess, dressed like it's 80s metal night with all like Renaissance fair level low cut shirt and all that. And she sees that he has a Bible and she wants the Bible, and she starts sort of like rubbing his arm and sort of asking him what she has to do to get the Bible from him, which is the greatest thing I ever saw on that whole run.
I'm so jealous right now.
I'm sorry.
I am so jealous.
I'm speaking in vague. I'm trying to be nice for the podcast audience and not be too dirty. But there was some funny. And the guy, I mean, I've never seen a person turn more beet red from embarrassment, of like just discomfort and embarrassment than that guy.
But you nailed
politely declining.
You nailed the description, because in the last 15, 20 years, there have been so many of these tours that have been put together that is a culmination of various different genres just from the same time period.
Yeah.
And the fan bases are very, very different.
One thing I'll say, and one thing that I do respect a lot about Striper, is that they like go out of their way to not play Christian shows. So like they want to play in front of Skid Row's crowd at the water park. Like that's what they're trying to do. So they're not trying to like, I'm sure they'll do stuff with like Petra or what. I can't think of other ones from that time, but I'm sure that they would probably do that. And they're probably buddies of those people. But I know that like they intentionally go out of their way to play just for like regular crowds, which I like. They got war stories from back in the day where they were pelted with every imaginable thing opening for like Metallica in Sweden or whatever. So like those guys have been through it.
If there's one thing you can say, like I can make all the jokes I want about the yellow and black and all of that.
It is funny.
But the one thing you have to say legitimately is they have ran a business since the 80s, touring and built the fan base. They've paid their dues. They've earned it.
Absolutely.
And
they're fucking awesome live.
Yeah.
They are such a good live band. It is unbelievable how good they are. Every night I would like just be in awe of how good of a band they are. Like I don't think they get enough credit for being the shit also. Like, they're more than one song. Even their new songs are really good. Like it's, say what you want about whatever they believe or whatever they're into, but like they're like a very, very good metal band.
So there was a website back in the day when I lived in Tulsa and was in a band and stuff called TulsaMusicPulse.com, I think is what it was, or .net, but we all called it TMP, and it was a message board.
Yeah.
And it was all Tulsa musicians, and we all kind of like promoted our shows on there and would meet up and go to each other's shows and things like that. But when you get a bunch of musicians commenting on each other's, tastes, it can get a little out of control real hand. And there was a Tulsa band that was on TMP, a metal band called Down for Five, and they had this female lead guitar player who could just shred her face off. So she was a big fan of Striper, and she was always posting about that, and I would be the one making the punchlines and jokes until she finally said, "Have you ever seen them?" Yeah. And I was like, "No, I've never seen Striper." And she was like, "Okay, go see them live and then tell me, they're not any good." And so that I took the challenge and I went to the Canes, watched Striper, and I was like, "I'll be damned. They're really great musicians.
They are very, very good."
And the other thing is they were very nice to the fans after the show, and that goes a long way with me.
Yeah, I think it's probably their level of diehard fans at this stage in their career, which are the people that are like Striper is like the most important cultural thing in their lives, which is like, that's, as like there's not a lot of like really top tier Christian media that's available to people. I mean, Christian music, there's a huge swath of it that exists, but like not all of it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So like if you're going to cling to something that's like this rules and it's like the thing that I can, get behind without feeling bad, that is a really special thing to them. And I'm sure it is exhausting to talk to those people day in and day out.
Oh, guaranteed.
But also, it's an intense group.
Can I tell you that I didn't have an intense discussion about Striper on my bingo card for today, Mike? I was not prepared for that at all. But
I think I'm more interesting when I talk about anything other than what I'm personally doing. So I will veer conversation. This is like, if you go see me play somewhere, this is also what I do there. Is we'll get started on a topic of like, I played a show in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, which I don't recommend, but then they have a Reese's grocery store that they just opened, a brand new Reese's grocery store in Broken Arrow. And there is a part of that Reese's that hosts live music, and you can book a show at the grocery store. And so for most of the set that I played at this Broken Arrow show, I would just ask them how that was.
Bro, I played.
And we had like a town meeting about the Reese's with rock and roll in it. So.
I played a series of Reese's grand openings across northeastern Oklahoma.
I mean, that's pretty great if they paid you.
They did. They paid well. Tony Romanello was the guy who got the gigs, and he would put us on shows with them. And Reese's wasn't really prepared for like a NoFX / Alkaline Trio style punk band to be playing, there at 10 a.m. on a Saturday afternoon for a grand opening. But yeah, they paid us well and gave us fried chicken from the deli. It's good times. So I brought you here because
all right, now we can start.
I want to talk about your music, and I know that's fine. That's difficult sometimes, but I have been playing your music a long time on the radio.
Thanks.
And we've never sat down and done this. And
I've barely spoken to you before right now.
Yeah, that's why I love podcasts, is because it doesn't have to be that stuffy, here's my list of random questions. It can just be a real conversation, even if it's about Striper. But the Agony scene was around back when I was in a band playing Tulsa, and you guys exploded in a short amount of time. Like the Pink Eye era of hardcore in Tulsa was a wild time in the hardcore scene.
Well, Pink Eye was kind of around the middle of our thing, too.
Yeah, you guys had already gone to Roadrunner at that point.
Yeah, we had back in when we first got signed and did the first record, it was like Warehouse in Bartlesville, the Hub, Curly's.
Oh, yeah.
I think. I actually met somebody. I run a venue called St. Cecilia's. It's a listening room in Tulsa, and we do singer-songwriter music. But there was a lady that had somebody introduced me to this woman who like ran Curly's back in like 2002 to 4. And I was like, I played there so many times when you were in charge. And I think that she yelled at us about something before.
She always
I remember getting in trouble for something that we did. I don't remember what though. But
that was a great room,
man. And it's a parking lot right now. It's all the way gone. Agony scene was. I always feel like it's a weird thing because we like didn't do almost anything outside other than Arkansas. Sort of, we almost never played anywhere other than Tulsa and Bartlesville, and maybe Oklahoma City a couple of times. But there was like we got on Solid State's radar because we did the Battle of the Vans in Bartlesville, which we didn't win. But
do you remember who did?
Yeah, yes, but I can't. I have Bishop Montgomery football. That's
because people
old heads will know what I'm talking. Bishop Montgomery football will ring a bell if you're 43 years old and were around in the hardcore scene when I was 15.
Dude, the Warehouse was such a crazy place. Like I saw Living Sacrifice shows there, Project 86 shows, and the heavy shows would come through and play the Warehouse.
Yeah, we kind of got around the first record time. We were kind of this dude that managed Blindside that practiced there. So for some reason, was kind of like quasi managing our early career. So we got to see Blindside a few times. But dude, there's a video. I think it's from I don't even remember what year it's from, but there's a live at the warehouse MXPX video on that someone shot and put on YouTube, and I'm in it somewhere. You can see me back in my MXPX fandom days. But
back in, I'm still.
I mean, I like.
days.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine. They're cool. I like MXPX. I mean, I have a lifelong love for that band. Coincidentally, this almost never organically comes up, but it just did. There is a song that MXPX did for Christmas time called Punk Rock Christmas. And it's on, I don't even know what it's on. It might just be a single. And it's on some sort of version of greatest hit stuff. But, and if you listen real close in the background, inexplicably, me and John Moreland and Wayne Wedge and Steve Walden all sang the Na 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 parts.
Wayne Wedge,
so,
my man.
And you can throw a link to that in the description of this episode. But,
I'm going to.
But we were
was that at Armstrong?
Yeah. So Stefan, who recorded the unreleased Things I Can't Control, John Moreland, and the Dust Bowl Soul or Black Hole Band record, who plays drums on most of it, which that's on YouTube. You can find that on YouTube. But around that period of time, we were buddies with Stefan, and Stefan needed people to sing backups on an MXPX song that he was mixing for them or something, and then we ended up doing that. So it's a very weird thing. It's on Wikipedia, too. You can find under the Wikipedia of that song, I am credited, as is John and Wayne and Steve.
I would get random phone calls from Stefan, and he would just be like, "Hey, are you around?" Yeah. He'd be like, "Do you have your camera with you?" Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Come by."
That's awesome.
And so he calls me one time, and I show up, and there's a giant tour bus, parked right there on the side of the Mexican restaurant there by where you'd go in for Armstrong. And I go in, and it's MXPX, and there's an off day on Warped Tour between Kansas City and Dallas, and they were recording an Elvis Costello cover. And I don't know if it ever came out.
I was going to say, I feel like...
And so I just was like,
that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was such a magical time, because there was one time, I don't know, I was or he would kind of tell us if he was doing little session work. He'd be like, so just, if you want to pop by tomorrow, Darren from Alkaline Trio is going to play drums on a Coliseum song. And if you want to come watch him play drums, which I did.
And it was rad.
It was rad. I'd left before I talked to him, though. I was nervous.
Yeah, that's the thing. You didn't, we would all just go in and geek out while it was happening and bail before they were finished because we were too nervous.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Agony scene real fast. That record that came out on Roadrunner, Rob Caggiano produced that. And when you fast forward to 2025, he's done some massive records after that.
No one deserves it more than that guy. Yeah. That guy, he's a nice dude. Or I mean, he's nice. I don't think I've I've barely interacted with him since 2005 or something.
Since it came out.
Yeah, I mean he's an okay dude. We saw he played guitar for Volbeat for a while, and I think I didn't go, but Chris and Brian, who played guitar in Agony Scene, I think met up with him while he was in town doing a Volbeat show, and he's nice enough. But yeah, that guy's really had a hell of a run. But even before he did our thing, I was excited because he had done Nymphetamine or not Amphetamine. He did It's the Cradle of Filth record with Gilded Cunt on it, and I can't remember what the record's called. But I was a big Cradle of Filth fan at the time, and I was excited that he had done a record for them, and I thought that was a good fit for us. And it was a very interesting experience to make a record with him. And we also made it in Millbrook, New York, in like the middle of fucking nowhere.
Wow.
And this was like before, it was like, it's the village of Millbrook. It's not big enough to be like a city or a township. And like Tom Cruise owns a house there, and it's very weird. And at the time, cell phones didn't work there at all. So you would have to drive 20 minutes outside of town to like call home on your cell phone.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And it was like a Stephen King level, or like, I guess he's New England, but like, it was like it was a place that like seemed like, you know, haunted things would be happening there. It was like very trippy. And
I was a big fan of the following Agony Scene record.
Get Damned?
Yes. The one that came out on Century Media.
Well, that's cool. Thanks for buying the one copy that we ever sold of that.
Dude,
I like that record a lot. I'm not ashamed of that shit at all.
Dude, Barn Burner's a banger to this day.
Thank you. Don't look up the video, but thank you.
I love the video. I love it because I lived in Tulsa for so long. I love seeing all the landmarks and, you know, all that stuff.
Yes, I think it's one of those the video for that song is one of those ideas that was like conceived in a way that like less is more, and then people kept adding more. I think if we just did like a thing at Admiral Twin, it would have been cooler than what it ended up being, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. I like Get Damned a lot. That's the only one that's had a vinyl repress. Somebody bought the rights to it and repressed it like a year ago, and I managed to get like one. I bought one of the copies of it because I think all that money just goes to whoever owns the publishing now. But that was a cool one. I think it like the Agony Scene always had a tendency to zig when we should have zagged, and you know, we put our finger to the wind and we're like, what kind of music do we want to make? What direction do you think that hardcore and like metalcore is headed in 2007? And we were like, let's make sort of a quasi punk record. And then everyone else went to deathcore and made much heavier music, and we went the other way. All
of my favorite records though are those ones that stick out that are not following the trends.
I mean, we were just kind of emotionally ready to not be in a band anymore. So that was kind of our like, let's just do whatever we want for an album, and then like, who gives a shit? So that was, you know, that was sort of the end of a lot of things happening, but I'm really proud of how that one turned out. Also, oddly enough, there's a song called White Nights, which I don't remember what that's in reference to, or it's in reference to the sample. There's like the Jonestown tapes. And I was like, oh man, this bridge or the sort of end of the song is this big, like, vibey thing that happens that kind of plays the song out, where we will like put like excerpts from the Jonestown stuff on there because, you know, we're edgy. You know, we want to make things scary and sad and feel important. And then right before the record came out, Lamb of God's record came out that sampled the exact same shit.
Oh.
So the great minds or whatever we have like virtually the same samples on records that came out maybe within like a month of each other. But I will say, if you like the Agony Scene stuff and you're not aware, we did put a record out in 2018 called Tormentor, which is, I think, the best Agony Scene music that we ever made. And I'm very, very proud of that. So if you're not aware of that, that's like my favorite stuff that we ever did.
I dug it.
Thank you.
I thought it was cool. I played it on the local talent show, and I was hoping some people would check it out at least.
They didn't, but and then I did. I have another metal project called Imperium AD. That's like it's Agony Scene-esque. It's a little more technical because the guy that writes the music, BJ Simpson, he was in Enterprise Earth, and he's like a virtuoso level guitar player. So his stuff is a little more precise. So it's like a cleaned up.
It's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. That we kind of did that over COVID just to have some shit to do.
Well, when that came out, Amy from Atom Splitter, who she was like the PR person for Roadrunner back in the day.
I remember Amy.
She started her own PR firm, went out on her own.
Yeah.
And I hadn't talked to you and didn't know what was going on. I just got a random email from her PR company with a press release, and it had your name listed as the vocalist. And I was like, holy shit, what is this? And so I went and listened to it, and that's when I downloaded it and started playing it on the local show because I thought it was awesome.
I like that stuff a lot. We talked a little bit about doing another EP like this year, maybe if everybody finds time. But it's like the back burner of back burners, level of priority for like everyone involved. Like BJ does a bunch of other stuff, and the guy Ryan Folden he was in Lacuna Coil. I think he might be back with Lacuna Coil, or he does he drum techs for Dragon Force or something. He's doing some spectacular.
Everybody's got jobs.
Yeah, and I DoorDash for a living. And
nothing wrong with the hustle, man. I got a bunch of hustles.
I'm getting pretty tired of the hustle. But I want to be an artiste, and you got to suffer to be an artist.
So let's talk about your project called R.R. Williams.
Okay.
This one was sent to me from a guy that played drums with you for a brief period named Pete Webb.
Oh, Pete. Yeah.
And Pete
didn't rock hard enough to keep Pete around.
Plays in the
I hope
Normandies.
he listens to this.
I'm going to send it to him.
As soon as I was like, I think I want to take like a little bit more of a... I'm just kidding. I don't know why Pete quit. I know that's why Pete quit, but I love Pete and I don't care about that.
He sent it to me, the first EP that was a little more punk leaning, but it had this Social Distortion vibe, which Mike has had the last few years, kind of that roots kind of vibe. And I was like, this shit is rad.
Thanks.
I like to see where this is going. And then I get sent Paved with Gold. And it's going a little bit more in the folky direction and things like that. How did you go from being this super extreme heavy vocalist into playing this kind of acoustic based folk and Americana style music?
I've been doing singer-songwriter music since 2010, off and on. And then before that, I was bass player in John Moreland's bands forever. So and I've also always liked this kind of thing. It's just that sort of sits in the background. I don't know. It's not like country music or anything. It's I like heartland rock. All of my favorite stuff when I was in high school was kind of jangle pop and heartland rock and, Counting Crows, and Counting Crows are one of my favorite bands of my life. And I like pop music a lot. And so, I don't know, all the things that I sort of am into just kind of boil down to this sort of I don't know, it's all heading in a direction. I think all the stops along the way of doing a Social Distortion kind of thing, that's a part of it. And then there's songs where I just fully finger pick guitar and sing soft. And then there's rock songs. I did, me and Bo Jennings in a couple of weeks are putting out a song together where it's essentially a full on rock and roll song. So I think I just kind of make whatever sounds suits whatever song I write the best. And, the more I fuck around and experiment with stuff, the more sounds that I end up making. But I also still do, I have a full on Ramones worship punk band called Merlin Mason that I also write songs for that. So I have just a wide swath of things that I'm interested in. And I feel like if I do one thing for too long, then I get bored with it and I need to switch up shit. So,
it comes across as very authentic. It doesn't.
Thanks.
It doesn't
I'm not trying to do anything other than just make things that sound good to me. You can definitely tell. I think when people are putting on a hat, I guess I could also mean literally a hat, a fun cowboy hat, but you can tell when people are kind of approaching it from this is popular and I want to do a thing that's formulaic to kind of get in on that. And you can tell when people mean it. Mm-hmm. And I always want to at least, write whatever comes out as what sounds correct to me, and that's not coming from it. Like I'm trying to just make things that like please my own ears and my own brain. But there's people that's what a John Moreland or like a Justin Bloss or people like that are just doing authentic, real shit. That's why it connects with people in the way that it does, is because people can sniff out inauthenticity pretty fast. And like, that's sort of where I would like everything that I make to sort of end up is like, it might suck, but at least he means it. You know what I mean?
Right. So let's talk about the record, Unremarkable Lives.
Sure.
Everything else up to that point had been kind of an EP or singles. And this, you kind of went full tilt with it on this record.
Well, before that, I did a thing called, I didn't even put it all together on the internet, but for a brief moment, I had a 4-song vinyl 7-inch called Dystopian Thing, and it had 4 songs on it that I recorded at John Moreland's house. Before the Unremarkable Lives thing, like I'd actually been posting just like shit to Bandcamp because that's the easiest thing to do. And I posted a few of those songs, and then I sent him. Every songwriter does this. Every creative person does this. You send it to your circle of friends that you want to bother with new music or whatever. And John seemed to be into it, and I was like, well, we should make, could you help me record these? And we did the little EP thing at his house, which went great. And then I had the Unremarkable Live songs kind of like, I wanted to like do a record, like a full album worth of thing with him, mostly just to hang out at John's house. And then also just we ended up making just a 9-song record. And but it wasn't I think I just went into it like I just want to do a bunch of, while I have the opportunity to like hang with my friend and make music at his house, so I want to do as much as possible. So we kind of went at it from that. Let's take the bones of a song and build something around it. And we did that 9 times. And that's what that record is.
Well, I think it's cool. And
thanks.
I love when John plays on somebody else's record, because he never like plays acoustic guitar, or, like he tries to do other things when he's on somebody else's record.
Yeah, I think this is true. We've actually talked about this, and he would say this, I think, is that like it is very obvious when it's him playing acoustic guitar. He's not doing, he has a way of doing what he does that's very distinctly him. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even really sure how to describe that, but it is very much, you could tell that it's him.
100%.
So I think he tries to avoid playing guitar on stuff because it's just, he plays electric guitar all over the record, but acoustic guitar, he has a very distinct thing that he does that's clearly John Moreland playing. So.
So after that, you've released 2 more things online on Bandcamp. So 2024 was pretty fruitful for you, productivity wise.
I always got stuff floating in the background. I probably write a song a month, and then I'll decide if it's like worth recording and putting out. But I really strongly prefer to just do everything myself if I can. And so I'm trying to get better at self-recording. And so I feel like when I reach milestones of figuring that shit out, I'll record a song and then put that out as like, here's where I'm at with my personal ability to make my own music. And so I did some people, or we do there's a song called The Chase that's on Unremarkable Lives. It's like a very soft thing. And then we do when I play this songs with a band, we have like a more upbeat version of that. And I just recorded that because I wanted that version to exist for people to listen to if they liked it. And then I wrote a song called Some People that's I thought like a really strong, as far as what I've put out, like a strong songwriter style song. And I just did like a finger pick and little fake piano thing and put that out just because I felt like that was a good enough song to like kind of put out in the world. And the more that I like feel like I have the ability to make quality sounding recordings, the more songs that I'll record. But I've kind of like, I don't know. I can't think of a reason to do a full album again for the foreseeable future, just because I don't think that's how the thing works anymore.
It really doesn't, and it was crazy to kind of watch it all happen and change.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, the way it all.
I always tell people the last time I put out a proper album, I had to worry about how to sell CDs at the mall, like, and hoping that magazine ads would, review them well. And, like that's the last time I was concerned about how to sell albums.
And record stores don't exist in malls. Yeah. Magazines barely exist, and malls barely exist.
Yeah,
it's a wild time. So, go ahead and plug your upcoming shows. Obviously,
sure. I'm playing today in Ardmore.
I was hoping you would do that.
I'm leaving here in a moment. I'm going to drive all the way to Ardmore. Shockingly, I don't know if this this. There is a very surprisingly wonderful scene around songwriter music out there.
Yeah.
Where fingers crossed today it's also like that, but like the last time I played at Marvin's Art Gallery, which is a wonderful place and those are wonderful people. I think I had 20 or 30 people come out, which is insane. Because I don't know what other cultural things are going on in Ardmore, but Ardmore,
I can tell you, is
quietly like a really, really great has a great little art scene there. It's wild.
So there has been a lot of money invested into art and art education.
Why? In Ardmore,
in Ardmore, the Noble family, they invested.
I was going to ask, is there like there was a wealthy family that's trying to.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Fair enough.
But that all happened when I was a kid. And so the fruit of those labors are people like myself and Jonathan Ashley White, who were influenced by those things as children.
Yeah.
Rather than
they're trying to build up that whole last time I was there, that whole Main Street area is filling up with like kooky little stores and people, they had like a sort of random, I don't know what to call it. Called I'm not making fun of it, but it's like something like Mama's Boots, and they sell cute, hip, didgeridoos and, skirts for gypsy grandma. That sort of oddball cowboy.
That's the best description lady anybody's ever given.
I think gypsy's not what I meant. That's a bad word. I didn't mean to say that. And I don't mean literal. I just mean they call themselves Gypsy Rose, turquoise feather in my cap thing. And they sell sparkly cowgirl stuff for women in their 50s. So it's that kind of store. But also with every purchase, you can have some organic vegetables from her garden. That's the kind of vibe that's happening out there, which is fun. But
it makes me happy.
Yeah,
that the sort of thing is happening in my hometown.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Ardmore is it just seems like you're almost to Texas, and here's a town with some hotels and Arby's. But there's more going on than that.
There's definitely more going on than that. So you mentioned your punk band, Merlin Mason.
Merlin Mason. We're playing March.
It's coming up pretty quick.
You could plug that into the show notes or however you plug things.
Yeah.
But that band is playing March 28th at the Grand Royale, which is one of my favorite places to play in Oklahoma City.
Plaza District.
In the Plaza District with the Costanzas and Prom Mom. And that show will be very good. Last time we played there, we had a good time. And then
she's booking some good shows in there.
Destiny's great, man. I really root for those guys. Before that, if you're in Tulsa and you retroactively already have a ticket for this, my band is playing Thursday, March 13th with the Vandaliers for the 20-year anniversary week of shows at the Mercury Lounge.
Dude,
I hope that you had already done that.
20 years of the Mercury Lounge.
It feels like more, it feels like it should be more. But
what's the best show you've seen at the Mercury?
Laura Jane Grace played there post-COVID. Like, it was one of the first things that happened after everybody had kind of started emerging.
I bet that was rad.
And it was maybe one of the best, like, I mean, Laura Jane Grace is great, and I love all the songs. And there was there's a bunch of factors. I think it was like, oh my God, everybody that I love and I'm friends with who likes this kind of music, we're all in the same place, and we're going to have this cathartic, the biggest sing-along anybody ever had. So there was that. And then also that was the first time I don't drink very much, but I drank quite a bit that day. So my memory may be clouded with how drunk and how much fun I was having. But that's probably the best experience with music I've ever had there, to see something. But I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, dude. Like, I've seen the Casualties play in there. Like, like there's like a bunch of crazy stuff that happened a long time ago too, but I don't remember all of it.
I saw a Junior Brown show in there one time that was pretty rad.
Yeah.
Chad Sullins and the Last Call Coalition.
Sure.
A couple of times.
I feel like legendary Shack Shakers back in the day. Yep. There's a band,
underrated band.
Yeah, they're great. And then Hillbilly Casino, who's one of my favorite bands to see in my life. They're like a Nashville rockabilly band that is very, very good. They've played there a bunch of times and I really liked it. But Mercury's great. It's like in a really great time now. I feel like it has, like with everything, like through that 20 years, there's been some.
It's been some ebb and flow.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm glad that the people that run it now are the people that are running it.
Mm-hmm. They're good humans.
Yeah, and that's a welcome change from when other people who weren't as good of humans were running it. So
I'm a big fan of all of the posters that Thomas Self did for years.
Man, there was about a day and a half where I don't even know if I shouldn't say this, but there was like a second or two where the idea that maybe Tom wouldn't do them as much anymore was floated out, and the level of like backlash that they could tell was like, don't fucking Tom is the poster guy until Tom says otherwise.
Right, dude. And I don't know the guy, never met him.
He's real nice.
I'm just a diehard fan of concert posters, and he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Tom has a real dude. I have the funniest. He's like such a sweet dude, and every time I see him, he gives me a big hug. And then, but there's this very funny thing that he does where like I used to work the door. I used to be the door guy at Mercury like in like 2010, 11, something like that. And he and his wife have been regular. Like he's been doing posters there forever. But, when I was the door guy, he used to come in a lot too. And one time, 14 years ago, his wife brought me homemade meatballs once. And they were very good. Like, if memory serves, these meatballs were very good. And then every day since, up until within like a week ago, he will say, man, I got to get her to make you some more of those meatballs. I was like, dude, it's been like 50. Like, I have children almost as old as when the meatballs happened. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I have grown sons who were 3 whenever you brought me meatballs. Like, it's such a funny, that's our common, I mean, he knows me and stuff, but like, that's been a through line for like my whole relationship with Tom Self is one time his wife brought me meatballs and then never again, but I get to hear about him every week of my life until I guess one of us expires at some point.
So before we get out of here, there's 2 other things I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
One, being a musician dad. Yeah. Because I have kids now and I'm the old dad. Like my son is my oldest is turning 12 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. My youngest is 7. So when I go to school to pick these kids up, I'm like 15, 20 years older than every other parent in the line and cannot relate to any of them. But parenthood is one of the scariest fucking things I've ever experienced in my life.
Sure. I had them when I was really young. So I had the opposite experience where I would be, and like I look the way I do and stuff. So like, my sons are 20 and about to be 21 and 18. So, and I'm 41. So you can do the math on all that. But, I think, as a, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, yeah, they like kind of grew up with me being in a off and on touring band, and then, I played music like the whole time they've been, and they're both musical kids. Like my son is like I don't know. He doesn't like when I call it rap. He's a rapper, but it's something that I'm like too old to know what it's called. But he does that, and like, he's being like, kind of looked at by labels at this point, and like. You're talking about, people want to fly him to New York to like do showcase shows and stuff. So he's doing really well with that.
That's badass, bro.
My younger son makes all of his beats for him. So they're kind of a collaborative thing where like Noah makes the beats and Ethan does like the songs on top of the beats. So that's what they're up to. And, every once in a while I'll get, I can offer advice in like the just general music business way of like, everyone is trying to fuck you and, do as much of it that you can for yourself because it's a terrible business to be in. And I hope that they have all the success that they can get without having to sell their soul or something.
I think it's cool that they're working together.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, like, yeah, I love it, dude. I'm so like, you know what I mean? It's like from like the sky, I can appreciate the kind of thing they're doing. I'm not hip to that stuff enough to like, to me, it sounds good and cool. And it seems to get a really good response, from like its target audience. So I'm very proud of that. And yeah, the fact that they're collaborating is like a very cool thing to me.
I just think I love seeing kids working together on music. Like I follow this one kid on Instagram, and I don't even know how old he is. He's, 10 or 11 maybe, but his name is Miles. And this kid just makes music all day. And the things he's doing production wise blows my mind. Like it makes me wonder, like if his dad is an engineer or something like that, or if this kid was just drawn to it. But
well, also if you grow, I didn't have like a way to record myself in any regular way until like 2020. Like I have like I had like a Tascam.
The cassette
and all that kind of shit when I was like, and like we had the digital one that burned CDs when we were like demoing Agony Scene Records when like in 2007 or some shit. But like, I've just never been
shittiest preamps known to man.
True. I've never been tech savvy, like I just didn't, I've never had, this is the most computer I've ever owned in my life is like currently. So like none of that was important to me. But if I grew up where that was all I did, like my whole life from being a baby, that was all available to me. Can
you imagine what you'd be doing now?
Probably be making beats with my brother.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, we were talking about it before we.
I didn't answer your question either, but I made my own answer.
It's good enough because it was honest. Yeah. But the other thing we were talking about before we got started was Hank Charles and Valcor Sound in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and how important Hank was to and is to so many of us because, that was our formative years and he was a good and positive, role model in our lives where, like you just said, everybody in the music industry is out to fuck you. Yeah. Regardless if it's a recording studio trying to get paid or an engineer or a producer. And Hank was the opposite of that.
I mean, for a guy with a drawer full of candy, he was not trying to fuck anybody.
No,
sorry. Sorry. Dude, like, I was thinking about, I was trying to remember like all the things that I know got demoed in there. Like, John Moreland in all aspects of, 30 Called Arson stuff in there, early Agony Scene stuff in there, you know, the Shame. I'm sure the Normandies or like
Larkin.
Yeah, like every band from like, certainly from like back in my day, like everybody has recorded or demoed there. And
a lot of Brian Parton stuff.
Yeah.
My old band, Hot Rod Bob, recorded our record in there. Paul Benjamin, his old jam band, Rewick, recorded their whole record in there.
His band was called Rewick.
Rewick, yeah. And
Rewake.
They were like...
I thought you said Rewick, like redoing a candle.
No, Rewick.
And I hated that name. And I'm glad it's not what I thought it was, and it's a better or different name. Sorry.
And then
I'm like such a negative dickhead sometimes, and I have to really reel that in for polite company. But
dude,
I'm trying to not be a jerk.
But and then we were talking about, you know, how many musicians he influenced throughout the years. And then we talk about his son and the things that he's done in his career. Just mind blowing, all of that.
Yeah.
That little neighborhood tucked away in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Man, it's far fucking out. I mean, I haven't been out there in a long time, but it is fucking far out there. We used to, me and my friend Frank in high school used to just like, I would sneak out of the house and Frank would pick me up at the end of the street and we'd just drive out to kind of where Hank lived. And there would just be nothing forever. And you just like, just smoke cigarettes, listen to the radio and like essentially dirt roads that would like kind of go past where Hank was at. And then, yeah, it's fucking way out there. I mean, I'm sure they developed all of that now because all of it's, yeah.
It's totally.
I haven't tried to go to Hank's house, I guess, since I was like 22 or something. So I'm sure there's like a Kohl's next to him now or something.
Totally. There is no more
probably
farmland.
Built some bullshit. It's like a Dick's Sporting Goods in his backyard, I'm sure by now. But that was like, yeah, I was way fucking out there back at that period of time.
God bless his neighbors too, because you know it was loud as hell outside
Not in that
garage.
carpeted drum room, dude. Like the oldest shag carpet in the world.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming by.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Everybody check out his music. I'll put the link in the description. R. Williams on Bandcamp. All of that stuff. Also has some vinyl for sale as well.
It's in my car. I didn't bring it up here. You have to meet me at my car to get it.
Go see him at the Plaza District Grand Royale, or if you're in Ardmore tonight, I'll share that on my stories as well.
Yeah.
Marvin's place. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Of course.